Welcome to the home of Grand Canyon hiking. This is the Grand Canyon Hiker Dude Show, presented by Bright Angel Outfitters. Get your Rim2Rim shirts, hoodies, and more at brightangeloutfitters.com, along with tons of free resources to help you plan your adventure. We created Bright Angel Outfitters to help you hike your best hike. Now, here's your host, my hubby, and co-founder of Bright Angel Outfitters, Brian Special.
Thank you, Zeena. And oh boy, I hate to say it, but with the trail closure announced last week that will affect most of Rim2Rim season, I really think that we are in for it this summer. And based on everything I'm hearing and seeing, especially in our Facebook group, I really think we need to talk about it again this week. So that's what we're going to do. We'll offer up some options for you and give you the pros and cons of each. Spoiler, though, there really aren't any that are great for those going north to south. So brace yourselves and ultimately make the best decision for you and anyone you're hiking with. All right, as you know by now, the National Park Service made what I thought was a shocking announcement last week that the ongoing Trans-Canyon Waterline project is forcing the River Trail and the Silver Bridge across the Colorado River at the bottom of the canyon to remain closed through September 30th. Both were scheduled to be reopened on May 15th in time for the start of Rim2Rim season. So this is a very big deal because what it does is it cuts off all access to Bright Angel Trail from the bottom of the canyon, meaning the traditional north to south Rim2Rim route of North Kaibab to Bright Angel will not be possible. And that's why I was so shocked. I know it's a huge project and a very challenging one at that, considering they're doing heavy, difficult work in one of the most remote and hard-to-reach places anywhere in the world, really. But, man, I just didn't think NPS would allow access to Bright Angel to be cut off during the summer because doing so makes the hike so much more dangerous, as hikers will now be forced to ascend the much more difficult and exposed South Kaibab Trail instead, which could lead to significant problems as a result of unprepared hikers taking on the challenge in the middle of a summer day. It just does not sound good. Why is Bright Angel the preferred route on the Rim2Rim in warmer months? Well, that's easy. There's piped water available at Havasupai Gardens and at the 3 mile and mile-and-a-half rest houses, and several creek crossings below Havasupai Gardens as well, where you could filter if you had to, as well as ample shade that takes over late in the afternoon on Bright Angel. South Kaibab has none of that, which means the water you carry up from the bottom is all you will have until you surface on the South Rim. But even if you have your water situation under control, well, you'll still have to deal with potentially extreme temperatures and very little shade cover for the entirety of the hike. So, what's the best way to manage this situation? That's what I think is so important to clearly lay out here, with the hope being it will help you make the best and safest possible decision for you. I understand folks are still going to do this no matter what I say, and I get that. This is a long-planned, bucket-list adventure for so many of you. All I want to do is to lay out what my experience on the trails tells me are the pros and cons of what are just not great options all the way across the board. Okay, the way I see it, there are 3 options here. So let's go through them one by one. Option 1, hike south to north. Taking the South Kaibab to North Kaibab route will mean you are unaffected by this mess. I actually can't think of a con for this route, even with perfect conditions and everything open. This is the route that I prefer taking myself. If you've got favorable temperatures, this route lets you enjoy the unparalleled beauty of South Kaibab on your way down and puts you in the step back in time vibes of the North Rim when you finish. More likely, though, you'll have heat to deal with, which means a 2 or 3 a.m. start so you can get through almost the 9-mile stretch of the box and the frying pan before the big climb up to the rim. And if there's serious heat to avoid at that point, well, you can wait it out at Ribbon Falls or at the Manzanita rest area and wait for the afternoon shade to take hold up North Kaibab before beginning the steepest part of the ascent, which begins at Manzanita, 5.4 miles below the North Rim. That is probably your best case scenario. South Kaibab to North Kaibab. So if you can make the logistics work, I really doubt you will regret it. I did just check the Grand Canyon Lodge website and was surprised to see they do have availability on most days from June through August. Outside of those months, it gets trickier, but it still might be doable with other lodging options like camping or Kaibab Lodge, which is about 12 miles outside the park, or Jacob Lake Inn, which is 45 miles from the trailhead. And of course, the Trans-Canyon Shuttle runs all summer between the rims as well. So there are options. It just might be a little bit tougher to work that all out this late in the game. So that is option number 1. Option 2, which I do not consider a realistic option, but I know some of you are going to do it, and we need to talk about it. That is to take South Kaibab to Tip-Off, then cut across the Tonto Trail to Havasupai Gardens, and ascend the rim on Bright Angel Trail. I've seen a lot of rationalizations in our Facebook group for why this might make sense. But I'm sorry. If you ask me, it simply does not. I cannot come up with a single scenario where this is a smart thing to do, and I don't believe I can overstate the danger of making this choice. It seems the thinking is you want to get to Bright Angel so you can hike out in the shade and have access to water. But there are so many problems with that logic and potentially deadly ramifications by following it. But what that would mean is once you leave Phantom and cross the Black Bridge, you have a very tough, very steep ascent of 1,500 vertical feet over just 2.1 miles to the tip-off. Now, guys, that part of the hike is taxing even in perfect conditions. But now we're talking about doing it in direct sun. Just as an example, I looked at that section of trail on our Grand Canyon Shade Tracker for July 1st, which will be similar to what you'll see all summer. And between 8:30 a.m. and 7 p.m., with the exception of a couple of very short stretches, that section is fully exposed to direct sun. You do not want to be on that 2.1 mile stretch between the river and the tip-off during daylight hours. You just do not want to do it. But let's say you do it anyways, and it will be better once you get to Bright Angel. That's what you think. Well, listen to this. When you get to tip-off, where you're now 4.5 miles from the South Kaibab trailhead, or 9 from the Bright Angel trailhead, on that same day, July 1st, the sun rises at 5:13 a.m. Exactly 31 minutes later, at 5:44, the direct sun hits, and there will not be a single patch of shade at tip-off until the sun sets at 7:52 p.m. Oh, and guess what? The tip-off, like Havasupai Gardens, sits on the canyon's desolate, exposed, and desert-like Tonto platform, and this is where you will pick up the Tonto Trail for the 4-mile slog to Havasupai Gardens, which, because it sits on the Tonto platform, is exposed to direct sun, the Tonto Trail is, for just about the entirety of the way and for just about the entirety of the day. There are 2 creek crossings on Tonto where you will be able to find shade under the trees, but that's just about it. Even worse, you cannot count on water at either of the creek crossings because you can't be sure they will be running. So the water you got at the bottom will have to last you all the way to Havasupai Gardens. Folks, I have spent a lot of time on that stretch of Tonto. It is beautiful and it is unique, but it is no place to be during the summer. And using it to cut across to Bright Angel, it just does not make a bit of sense to me because it is just far too dangerous. And you know what? This doesn't even take into account that by the time you get to the tip-off, you're almost 17 miles into your north to south hike. It's unlikely that you'll be feeling great at that point. Maybe you will be, but you have already been through a rough on your body 5,800-foot descent from North Kaibab over almost 14 miles to Phantom Ranch and climbed back up 1,500 vertical feet over 3 miles to the tip-off. If you've never hiked the canyon before, I'm sorry, but no matter how good your fitness is, you are not going to know for sure how your body is going to be feeling at that point. So the Tonto to Bright Angel option, it is just not a good one. Which leads us to option 3, which I firmly believe is the only safe way to complete a north to south rim to rim during the hottest months of the year this time, which could very well start by May 15th, those hot days that are just insufferable. And May 15th, of course, is when rim to rim season opens. It will almost certainly be the case that the heat is just going to be unbearable the deeper we get into June, and probably all the way through the scheduled reopening of the River Trail on October 1st. It can be bad that late into the season. Option 3, keep your north to south itinerary, but build it around hiking out of South Kaibab after the sun goes down. All right, now we're on to something. This will still require some strategy, and it will definitely require some patience, as it will mean a very long day. But I've talked this through with plenty of experienced canyon hikers whom I respect, and this is where we all land as being the smartest choice. I should mention that this option is for those doing rim to rim in one day. If you're camping or you're staying at Phantom, you have more options. Let's say you're staying at Phantom and heading up South Kaibab on your way out. In that case, you could probably leave at 2 or 3 in the morning and surface on the South Rim before the heat of the day, like by 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, which is as late as I would personally want to be finishing up South Kaibab on a day that's forecast to be a hot one. The one-day north to south rim to rimmers will not have that luxury. So let's just assume that's you, and you're heading down North Kaibab around the most popular start time, which is probably 4 a.m., and you can't forget about the heat and the sun problems, by the way, you'll need to get through on North Kaibab as well. Primarily, the 8.6-mile stretch from the Manzanita Rest Area at the base of the North Rim all the way to Phantom Ranch. In that section, you'll pass through the notorious Frying Pan and then the Box, also places you do not want to be in the middle of a hot day. That will likely put you at Phantom hopefully between 10 and 11 in the morning. Okay, now what? If Bright Angel were open, you might be able to get to Havasupai Gardens in the start of the very difficult climb at that point when the shade starts to take hold late in the afternoon. But you've only got South Kaibab as an option, and that is nothing but trouble at that time of day. So the only safe option, which I get a lot of folks will not like, is to hang out in the Phantom area, in the shade, dipping in the creek or the river at Boat Beach, or hanging out in the canteen and having lemonade and sending postcards and playing games and having the patience to wait until dusk to start your climb out, straight up South Kaibab, mostly after dark. It will still be hot, but the heat is infinitely more manageable without the sun beating down on you. Then when you finish, you can call the Xanterra taxi for a ride back to Grand Canyon Village. Easy peasy. You know, look, I know that this is not what you have in mind. It is a bucket list hike in one of the 7 natural wonders of the world. And you, of course, want to take in all those iconic South Kaibab views, but you don't want those views to kill you or put you in the hospital or put search and rescue teams and the Rangers in jeopardy by having to come and get you, which they will not do, by the way, unless the situation is very dire. So do not think you can just get a helicopter out if things go sideways. That is not how it works. And let me just say, I just hate this for you. I understand the Waterline project is long overdue and completely necessary, and I have never uttered a negative word about it. NPS has been great about announcing closures at least a year in advance, but this one came just over a month out, and let's be honest, there are folks planning rim to rim who aren't going to find out about this until they get to the canyon, because there just wasn't and isn't enough time to inform, much less educate, on what the alternatives are. And now, well, we just have a dangerous situation on our hands. There's no other way to put it. No one knows that better than our amazing Rangers. And if you see them on the trail, please Please just thank them for all they do. They unfortunately and undeservedly face the wrath of the public sometimes for issues that are completely out of their control. Most you see in Ranger gear, they're out there living their dreams in service to you and of their love for the outdoors, and especially for their love of the canyon. And they deserve our gratitude above all else, especially in these trying times. I spoke with one of those Rangers just a couple days ago, and I know they are understaffed and working hard, the Ranger force is. And the message that they have for hikers is this: take responsibility for yourself. It's not on the Park Service to come to your rescue for minor ailments or because you're tired. They are stretched thin. So be prepared to take care of yourself. Be prepared to self-rescue. And most importantly, don't go below the rim unless you're sure you're ready for it and have taken all the precautions. Be honest with yourself. Be transparent with those you're hiking with. This is a serious, serious hike, even in the best of conditions. Rangers sometimes have to hike for hours just to reach those who need them, and they're doing so in the same extreme temperatures and hostile conditions that you are experiencing along with them. So take responsibility for yourself and understand that if things do go sideways, again, you're still probably going to be forced to get yourself out of the canyon, no matter how bad you might be feeling. There are no mules to haul you out. Helicopters are reserved for those truly incapacitated and in life-threatening situations. So please, the message from the Rangers, take responsibility for yourself. So to sum it up, the best option if you have north to south rim-to-rim plans outside of coming back next year or the year after is to switch up and do a south to north rim-to-rim. That leaves you unaffected by this situation. The best option if you are going north to south is to get to Phantom, wait out the heat of the day, and only begin your ascent late in the evening when the sun is no longer overhead. Yes, you will hike in the dark. You'll finish in the dark, but you have a much better chance of having a successful experience. The other option it's just not an option in my book, but we needed to address it because I see it floated as an option elsewhere, and that's to cut across Tonto to Bright Angel. In my opinion, that is a very, very bad idea for all the reasons I stated earlier. Please don't get yourself caught on Tonto or on South Kaibab under direct sun and the heat of the day. Please, at best, it will not be a pleasant experience. So again, folks, please play it smart and don't let it be you or someone you're with who runs into trouble. You must make sacrifices and take the proper precautions to hike rim to rim safely this season. None of us are happy about it. The Rangers aren't happy about it. Nobody's happy about it. The people working so hard at the bottom of the canyon doing the waterline project, they're not happy about it. But all we can do here and in our Facebook group is present options and advice, and then ultimately leave it to you to decide. Remember, a rim-to-rim hike in the Grand Canyon is a significant physical challenge under perfect conditions. And that's for those of us with canyon experience. If you've never been to the canyon, oh man, please listen even more carefully to everything we've said here. And if you're worried about doing it under the conditions we've laid out, let me assure you, you should be. Listen, I do not like playing the role of Dr. Doom, but I feel like it's important that you are as informed as you can be. And so much of this comes from experiences I've had and mistakes I've made. Heck, if you go back and listen to episode 13, you can hear about my own horrific summer experience, even after I'd taken precautions such as hiking out South Kaibab at night, like I'm recommending here. That is a night that I wondered more than once, honestly, if it was going to be my last. Also listen to episode 20, Death and Despair on North Kaibab, about a group of 4 fit women who got into trouble in the heat, some serious trouble. Or episode 27, the tragic tale of a Boston marathoner who died in the canyon's extreme heat and exposure on the Tonto platform. We have many, many episodes that deal with hiking in the heat, so please listen and absorb and be as prepared as you can be. Again, folks, I always say it, there is a direct correlation between taking the Rim2Rim hike or any hike in the canyon very seriously and ultimately ending with success. A direct correlation. So please take this all very seriously, plan accordingly, and do what is best and safest for you and whoever you are hiking with. This is a serious situation. We've spent 2 podcasts now talking about it. It's because I'm so worried and honestly full of anxiety about what is coming this summer. And it's not necessarily you all who are taking it seriously and listening to podcasts and listening to what everyone is saying about what you'll be facing on your hikes this summer. It's more for the people who I also mentioned who aren't even going to know about this until they get there. I was down at Havasupai Gardens a couple of weeks ago, and there were people coming down that had no idea that Bright Angel Trail was closed below Havasupai Gardens at that time, and they thought they were going all the way to the river. It's mind-boggling, but people, aren't as dialed in as you are and dialed in as we are. They're not taking it as seriously as you are. So please, everyone, just take it seriously and get out of there safely this summer. I hope you still have a great experience. But man, just be safe and take safety and staying out of the heat above all else. Man, I don't like talking about this stuff either, but it's just too important to not spend a lot of time on at the moment as people plan what they're going to do on May 15th when Rim2Rim season opens. All right, that's it for now. My name's Brian Special, still encouraging you as always. No matter what, go hike the canyon. Take that first step, embrace the journey, and when you get there, whether it's for time goals or taking your time, just hike your own hike and savor every step in the magnificent Grand Canyon. We'll see you next time on the Grand Canyon Hiker Dude Show, presented by Bright Angel Outfitters.